When my father revealed his plans for my marriage, I was taken aback. I had always assumed that I would have a say in choosing my partner, but it seemed that decision had already been made for me. My father's words hung in the air, heavy with expectation, as he explained that the woman he had chosen for me was significantly older. At first, I thought it was a joke, but the seriousness in his eyes told me otherwise. It dawned on me that this arrangement wasn't about love or compatibility. It was about settling a debt, about honor, about fulfilling an obligation that had nothing to do with my own desires or aspirations. The woman in question was the daughter of a man who had once helped my family in a time of need. My father felt indebted to this man, and it seemed that I was the currency with which he intended to pay off this debt. I felt a sense of numbness wash over me, not because of the age difference, but because I had no say in the matter. I was being treated like a commodity, a means to an end, rather than a son with my own dreams and aspirations. When I met her a few days later, I was struck by her composure. She carried herself with a quiet confidence, a sense of self-assurance that was both captivating and intimidating. Her eyes told a story of their own, a story of resilience and strength, of having weathered life's storms and emerged stronger on the other side. As I looked at her, I couldn't help but wonder what her story was, what had shaped her into the person she was today. But beneath my curiosity, there was also a sense of unease, a feeling that my life was about to change in ways I couldn't control. Her gentle words struck a chord within me, and my perspective shifted. I no longer saw our situation as a simple case of obligation. Instead, I realized that we were both trapped in a web of circumstances beyond our control. As I observed her more closely, I noticed the way she carried herself with quiet strength, the way she observed the world around her with a discerning eye. Despite the pain and hardship she had endured, she exuded a sense of wisdom and resilience that I found deeply admirable. In the moments we shared, awkward as they sometimes were, we began to open up to each other. We talked about our hopes, our fears, and our dreams. We shared our regrets and our longing for freedom. And as we did, I started to see her in a different light, not just as the woman my father had chosen for me, but as a complex, multifaceted human being who had been shaped by her experiences. I realized that she, too, had lost her youth to the expectations of others. She, too, had been forced to navigate a world that often seemed indifferent to her desires. And yet, despite it all, she remained strong, determined, and full of life. She rarely spoke of her past, and when she did, it was with a quiet introspection that was both captivating and heartbreaking. At first, our dinners together were marked by a sense of detachment, as if she was merely going through the motions of life. But one evening, when the power outage forced us outdoors, we sat under the starry sky, surrounded by the soothing sounds of nature. It was then that I asked her, with genuine curiosity, "Were you ever in love?" Her gaze drifted away for a moment, and when she turned back to me, her eyes held a deep sadness. "Once, a long time ago," she said softly, "but I wasn't allowed to choose him." Those words hung in the air, a poignant reminder of the sacrifices she had made. As she began to share more of her story with me, I realized that her life had been marked by silence and duty. She spoke of caring for ailing parents, of sacrificing her own dreams, and of being treated as a role rather than a person with her own desires and feelings. Her words were devoid of bitterness or resentment. Instead, they conveyed a sense of acceptance, as if she had finally come to terms with the pain she had endured. As I listened to her story, something within me shifted. I no longer saw our situation as a simple matter of age or obligation. Instead, I saw two people who had been shaped by the expectations of others, two individuals who had been left behind by those they trusted most. And in that moment, I felt a sense of solidarity with her, a sense of understanding that transcended our circumstances. For the first time since the arrangement, I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a person who was beginning to see the world in a different light. As we opened up to each other, our conversations flowed like a gentle stream. She asked me questions that probed the depths of my soul, seeking to understand my thoughts, fears, and dreams. I was surprised by how effortlessly I could share my innermost feelings with her. There was no judgment, no attempt to fix me or mock my vulnerabilities. She simply saw me, and that kind of understanding is a powerful thing. It was as if she held a mirror to my soul, reflecting back a version of myself that I had never seen before. I began to let go of my preconceptions about her, and instead, I saw a complex, multifaceted person who was strong, yet gentle. She was not the person I had expected, but someone I was starting to understand and appreciate. As our bond grew stronger, I found myself looking at her in a new light. I no longer saw her as just a person my father had chosen for me. I saw her as a unique individual with her own experiences, hopes, and fears. And in that realization, I felt a sense of connection that I had never felt before. After that pivotal night, a subtle yet profound transformation unfolded between us. It wasn't a sudden or dramatic change, but rather a gradual one, like the gentle rainfall that seeps into the earth, nourishing it from within. We shed our pretenses, abandoning the polite yet distant conversations and awkward silences that once characterized our interactions. In their place, a quiet honesty emerged, a shared understanding that we might not have chosen each other initially, but we could still choose to connect, to support each other in the present. She began to make small, thoughtful gestures, not to assert her presence or dominance, but to show her awareness and care. She would fold my clothes, leave tea on the table, and remind me to take my vitamins, all without fanfare or expectation of recognition. These small acts of kindness spoke volumes, conveying a sense of consideration and compassion that went beyond words. I found myself drawn to her, noticing the way she tied her hair back when focused, the calm tone she maintained even in challenging situations, and the quiet strength she embodied. It was clear that life had not always been kind to her, but she had learned to stand tall, to support herself when no one else would. In that moment, I realized that she had given me something invaluable, a sense of peace that transcended words. It wasn't a dramatic or flashy feeling, but a quiet, steady comfort that I had never experienced before. It was as if she had somehow understood me, seen me, and accepted me for who I was. One night, as she passed by my door, she paused and spoke softly, and everything felt different, yet somehow softer, calmer. We didn't need to label our feelings or rush into declarations. We simply existed in the moment, comfortable in each other's presence. It was a quiet, unassuming connection, but one that felt profound and true. A subtle warmth had begun to develop between us, a gentle rhythm that was palpable, even if invisible. We started sharing small moments, simple gestures that may have seemed insignificant to outsiders, but held immense meaning for us. She'd tend to the plants, and I'd ensure her tea was prepared just right. She'd sit beside me, a quiet presence that brought me comfort. Our late-night conversations were often lighthearted, filled with stories, laughter, and comfortable silences. But it was the sense of safety and companionship that truly mattered. She was no longer just a stranger or the woman my father had chosen. She had become the person I turned to when life felt overwhelming. As I grew closer to her, I began to notice the little things about her, the way she smiled, the way she moved, the way she seemed to understand me without needing words. And in those moments, I felt a deepening connection, a sense of togetherness that went beyond words. As I grew closer to her, I began to notice the tiny details that made her who she was. The small scar on her wrist, a reminder of a story yet untold. The sparkle in her eyes when she spoke of the books that had shaped her younger years. And the intuitive way she knew when to offer words of comfort and when to simply be present. One day, I caught myself smiling as I watched her from across the room, lost in her own thoughts. It was then that I realized my feelings had shifted. I no longer felt trapped or confined. Instead, I felt a deep sense of safety and acceptance. I felt seen, heard, and chosen. Our love story wasn't one of grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was a quiet, incremental journey of two people rebuilding their lives from broken beginnings. And yet, in the midst of that quiet rebuilding, something profound and sacred began to grow. She was teaching me the art of loving without expectation or demand, of accepting love without shame or hesitation. As I learned to receive her love, I began to see the world in a different light. I stopped asking why this had happened to me and started wondering what if this was exactly what I needed. Life often gives us things we don't want, only to reveal later that they were exactly what we needed all along. It's a strange and mysterious journey, one that requires patience, trust, and an open heart. And as I looked at her, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. She was never part of my envisioned future, yet she became the anchor of my serenity. I used to envy the carefree couples, wondering if I was missing out on the excitement of young love. But now, as I gazed at her, I felt a sense of completeness. Her love wasn't the stuff of fairy tales or grand romantic gestures. It was forged in the depths of her experiences, tempered by loss, and refined by the quiet strength she had developed over the years. There was something uniquely beautiful about her love. It didn't seek to prove itself or demand attention. Instead, it was a gentle, steady flame that warmed my heart. I felt it in the way she looked at me, in the way she showed up for me, and in the small acts of kindness she performed without expectation of reward. As I sat beside her, watching her sleep, I realized that love isn't something you chase or capture, it's something you grow into, something that develops over time. It's the choice to stay, to support, and to love, even when the world hasn't always been kind. She could have easily let bitterness consume her, but instead, she chose peace, chose softness, and chose me. And as I watched her, lost in the pages of her book, her hair tied loosely, her glasses slipping down her nose, I felt my heart swell with love. She looked peaceful, and that peace was something I had grown to cherish, to crave. The kind of love that quietly anchors you, even in life's turbulent moments. I sat beside her, sharing the silence, gazing out the window together. The stillness was comforting, a reminder that some moments don't require words. When I finally spoke, my voice was barely above a whisper. The truth was, the words weren't easy to articulate, not because they were complex, but because they came from a place of genuine appreciation. As I spoke, her eyes softened, filling with a warmth that seemed to radiate from within. It was as if she understood the depth of my gratitude, the acknowledgement of the love and kindness she had shown me. In that moment, words weren't necessary, the connection between us spoke volumes. You're here because you've brought life to a part of me that was barren, because you've made something beautiful bloom in the darkest corners of my soul. She didn't need to say a word, her gentle touch spoke volumes. She reached for my hand, holding it softly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. In that moment, something shifted within me. The weight I had carried for so long, the resentment, the confusion, the sense of being trapped, began to lift, like the gentle release of a held breath. I felt a deep sense of peace settled in. The day unfolded differently after that, not because of any grand gesture or dramatic change, but because something fundamental had shifted within me. I no longer felt trapped or forced. Instead, I felt chosen, not just by her, but by life itself. It was as if the universe had known exactly what I needed, even when I didn't know myself. She had transcended her role, evolving from the woman my father had chosen for me to the woman who had captured my heart. Her presence was a gentle breeze on a summer day, soothing and calming. She taught me the value of patience, not through words, but through her quiet strength and unwavering kindness. As I grew closer to her, I found myself showing up more fully, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. I began to notice the little things that brought her joy and made an effort to surprise her with thoughtful gestures. A scarf in her favorite color, a snack she had casually mentioned, a heartfelt note left beside her tea. These small acts of kindness spoke volumes about the connection we shared. Her smile when she read my notes was like a ray of sunshine, warm and uplifting. It was as if we had both been through a journey, and somehow, we had arrived at the same place, in the same moment, with the same heart. I came to realize that love isn't always loud or flashy. Sometimes it's quiet, subtle, and gentle. It can sneak up on you, sitting beside you during dinner, waiting patiently for your heart to notice. And I noticed. I noticed the way she made me feel, the way she loved me without expectation or demand. She never asked me to love her, she simply loved me, and in doing so, she showed me the way. My love for her grew slowly, naturally, without needing to be prompted. It became the only thing that felt true, the only thing that